Thank you very much. It is always emotional to get back here. This is my second time in the department, and I feel very honored to be here. For me, this is a mixed bag. In part because it was a moment in which I had a wonderful time, but the last 2 years of Michigan was very painful because I lost half my family while I was here. And one of the things that I remember well is the humanity, the way in which my fellow graduate students corralled around me and made me feel at home. That support system, I think, could be a very good place to begin to think about the question of community in terms of rethinking the graduate student. I think also that the faculty was really excellent. I think I said this yesterday, that there was no door I could knock which I could not be welcome. Sometimes it was hard to tell who was on my committee and who wasn't. It's also down to knowing what you want as a student, because I do remember vividly that I put quite a mixed bag of characters in my committee, including characters that never went along at all. But the one thing that I will say up front is that I was the one who was the designer of my destiny. And these were at best the resource persons that I wanted to impact on this journey and signpost it in the best way they could. So that was useful. Now, what I'm going to say today, is not the person that you know as a scholar. The books, the articles and stuff. I think I'm still defined by the core values of my upbringing. As somebody who grew up very poor, but traveled this journey in the world, never forgetting where I came from. I came from a place where kids still traveled 10 miles to school, barefoot, and I returned home after a long period of self-exile during the regime of Robert Mugabe, to find that kids were still traveling 10 miles to school. So, but in that story, I didn't read kids that were victims. I read that to mean creative resilience, where even when death is certain, the back is against the wall, you don't just roll over and die. You die fighting, or you fight in order not to die. For me, that was the spirit of Africans, spirit of all the people that experience deprivation, especially racial deprivation and poverty. They are not just there to be helped. They don't need our help, they don't need our charity. And I always wondered, what would it mean to build on what they know and what they do best? I have never been a conformist for that reason. I do remember quitting my PhD at the University of the Witwatersrand to come to Michigan because I was disgusted by being bombarded with Marx every time I go to Egypt. No purpose whatsoever. Marx was not an African, he had never been to Zimbabwe or South Africa. What does he know about it? And those that know my work will know that that is where that kind of creative disobedience came from. I rejected the idea that I always have to start with a European and a white scholar in order to authenticate myself. They don't know me. So that's what I wanted to do instead, was to think of Africans as intellectual agents, people who are engaged in the business of creative resilience through what I'm now calling strategic deployment of things. Is why I had always wondered for a long time, why is it that African scholars do not talk about Africans in a technological sense, as technologists? Why is it that we couldn't find it appropriate to talk about science from an African perspective? And now, innovation. I just never understood it. And those that read the edited volume will know that was the basis for that book. But after the book, the question was what? What do you do about this stuff? To be fair, in graduate school, more than one faculty member here, I think the room was somewhere around here, used to tell us that very few people are going to read your book. Which was quite depressing, actually. And it turned out to be very untrue. People do read our books. Don't be fooled by this all modesty thing. It's not true. But the question then is, we didn't have the kind of gizmos that you guys have these days. And you have plenty of them to reach, what, 40,000, did you say? Wow. So the question then became, how would you want to get ahead beyond the usual academic? Because think about it. We go to the field, we do our research, go to the archive, we do our research, then we come back and we talk to each other. Done. Then we publish, expect somebody to read our books. I was looking for something more. I was looking for, so the impact factor in academia is how many people have cited you. Well, that depends very much on how many friends you have who are in your network. Well, if you're likely like him, then perhaps you know, social media and other forms of media, multimedia is changing. But I was not content with an impact factor that is measured in terms of how many articles you've published, how many books you've read, which particular type of journals. Usually in Africa they say world class, code for Western journals. I was interested in a different kind of impact factor, which was judged by how many lives you have touched, how many lives you have changed. How humble are you to the idea that knowledge makes you more humble and open to other ways of seeing as opposed to just your own? Because that's dogma. We often mistake knowledge for dogma. It's not the same. And what would it take to actually create a space like that? So by about 2016, I had got really fed up with academia as usual. I had just been tenured. At that point, I was saying, I care for certain issues in my life. What do I do with my post-tenure life? Now that I'm here, I'm tenured. And the first thing was, well, be a lawyer. Go do a JD and prosecute the hell out of people who discriminate or people who keep the poor poor and exploit them. Good idea. The second one was, no, you could do an MBA and take the route of entrepreneurship. And then a wise bird told me that actually you don't need either of these two. What you need is to surround yourself with people who are very good at these things. And then some of it, you will appear like a fool and a phony initially, but some of this good stuff will rub up on you. And that's what exactly I did. And I began to expand my horizons. When I came to graduate school, I had always wanted to go back and establish an institute that understood science and technology from an African perspective. I don't know if I declared that in my letter of application. I'm pretty sure I did. And that's exactly what I have been trying to do since my post-tenure life. Last year, I registered a company called Research Design Build. Starting out as a company, which is what you're supposed to do if you want to start an institute in Zimbabwe. And it's self-explanatory. You research with the people, you design with the people, you build together with the people. There's something else. This is a space in which you can take students now to immerse them in real life, to work with people, so that they disabuse themselves with the idea that they are the high mountains, the knowledge mountains from which all the wisdom flows to the valley of simpletons. Truth is, there is no such. You do not know much about people who are somewhere right now experiencing and living something based on their knowledge and their right here. At the same time, they don't know what you're going through. It can only be a kind of partnership. And that partnership space is defined by Venn diagram. It's you here, and they there, and there's this shaded part in between. It's that shaded part between that I was very, very interested in. I was interested in going back there to share with people what I had learned during my travels in the world, and to elevate what I had grown up doing, what I know and what they know, what we have known together communally, and engage in a new communal of knowledge production, which did not end with simply papers published, but lives transformed. Our first project was to build, because we realized that climate change is affecting people, not in the high-handed terms that natural scientists want to think, but in terms of rains not falling as regularly as they used to, in terms of pastures dwindling, in terms of crops failing. The more that there was not enough rain, people were moving to plow in the valleys, which is supposed to be where cattle are supposed to graze. And so one of the first projects that we did was to, because I had done actor network theory. For those in STS who know that it's actor network theory, Bruno Latour and others. And the idea being that you assemble, if you want to, in my interpretation, in terms of praxis, if you want to get things done, you assemble all these heterogeneous elements and bring them together with one caveat, beyond which those kinds of theories don't apply. You are the creator. You are the creative. You have a purpose. You assemble these elements together. And by you, I don't just mean you. You as we, as a communal, with the people. We know what we want, but we don't have all the expertise we want. The result of which was a push to include molecular biologists who work at research stations in Zimbabwe, agricultural training institutions, universities, technical government departments, rural district councils, non-governmental organizations, and so forth, into a new communal for problem solving. And this is what led to an initiative with a collaboration with the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization on green jobs for rural youth employment. I specifically wanted it to be in my village because that is where I came from. The problem is that once we have crossed, we never go back. We don't think of ourselves as catalysts. In my case, the idea was to deploy history and other forms of knowledge and research in service of problem solving. I'm running out of time, but I would like to say a number of things that I think I have faced. First, are institutions ready for a professoriate of student or a student with this outward looking? I'm not very sure. I'm not very sure. And that is the sense that I had here as a student. I had to squirrel my initiatives in without the help of my advisor. Otherwise, it would have been a real problem. So, and I don't blame them because they are trying to push you through the line, and they think that by the way that this is the best way to get there. The second thing is that perhaps they don't know who else we are besides being their student. I mean, like my own background. I was a breadwinner. All my cards were maxed out. My ATM cards, credit cards, they were all maxed out. And I was still taking care of my mother and several other family members at home. So all they see is their students, all this other stuff. So are we prepared for a multicultural, diverse student population? Or do we have a specific type of student whose only responsibility is to themselves, the individual? And I think that Western education needs a kind of decolonial move, which acknowledges that we are not all individualistic in our backgrounds. There is such a thing as a communal. I also get the sense that we get hired in part because of the need for diversity to be seen on campus. You need to see diversity. When I look around, I see diversity. Okay? But not necessarily what is positively felt and experienced as diverse. For example, I mean a diversity beyond aesthetics or numbers, to qualitative diversity, cosmological diversity, and the weighting of knowledge. Whose knowledge counts? When we bring diverse people there, do we also allow diversity of knowledge and approach? I am not very sure about that. And there's still a lot of fringing going on. Usually at the departmental level, as my colleagues have said, you find at universities a lot of good pronouncement, even at the graduate school level. A lot of good intentions. But they say the road to good intentions is paved with the road to. I want to reverse that. The road to good intentions is paved with hell. And to be very frank, you're told you need to get tenured first. So this is my way of advice. It's how I went through it. I got tenured first, but the danger is that the flame dies. There are institutions that are very toxic and can kill your passion when you are a tenure track. They will tell you, you say, we love this stuff, we love what you do, you're so outward looking. But they will tell you right after you are their employee, you got to pack that stuff until you get tenure. I am sure they are doing it for a good cause. They want you to get tenured and retain you. And then they will tell you can do this afterwards. But even afterwards, I think there is no guarantee that they will then go back to you. They will say, but we need this second book or third book to get you to full professor, you see. And at full professor, you may run a big roadblock when you say, this is what I have done, this is what I have built. Well, we are a humanities program. We don't build stuff. Write books. Finally, I want to say it's not a bad thing to take advantage of Michigan's this democracy where you can go and choose courses in different schools. But and that is probably, while we are waiting for the future perfect, we might need to actually capitalize on that as preparing you for a diverse job search. I was fortunate in that I could choose where I wanted to go, between history departments or environmental departments, or to go to a straight STS program. I chose to go to an STS program because I wanted to see what technology and science look like from the heart of the beast, from the belly of the beast, as they say. And one piece of advice in way of closing to the department and to Rackham, I really think that we need to strategize how you can still involve PhDs where they are, your graduates, your alumni, from where they are, in terms of how these students that you are training can actually find it easier to navigate career options, both within and outside the academy when they finish. Thank you.